Welcome back, students. Let's continue with the solid state. In this chapter, some of the topics which are important as per the examination, I am taking that directly into the question type, how that type of questions are coming from that type of topics. Okay, so I'm going to explain these type topics directly by the question type only. Okay, so the first here is the types of we are going to discuss here about the types of solids on the basis of their magnetic property. Okay, on the basis of their magnetic property we are going to discuss this thing. So here the question from this topic can be arise like this. The question here can be, explain the following with suitable examples. Okay, explain the following with suitable examples. First is the ferromagnetism, then paramagnetism, then ferrimagnetism and antiferromagnetism, and the last one is the 1216 and 1315 group compounds. So these are some of the important topics also from your chapter solid state. And here, by using this question answer, we can easily understand which type of questions can be asked from this type of topic. So let's go first with the ferromagnetism here. Okay, so what is ferromagnetism? Ferromagnetism or ferromagnetic solids are the substances, these are the substances that are strongly attracted towards a magnetic field. Okay, their property is that they are strongly attracted towards a magnetic field. They can be permanently magnetized. Okay, they can be permanently magnetized even when a magnetic field is absent there. Okay, even when we will see that magnetic field is absent there. Okay, so some of the example of such type of solids are cobalt, iron, nickel, chromium oxide and gadolinium named element. Okay, so these are some of the elements such as cobalt, iron, nickel, chromium oxide, which are strongly attracted towards a magnetic field. Okay, what is their property? They are strongly attracted towards a magnetic field there, and if we can try, so they can be permanently magnetized even when we remove the magnetic field in which they are kept. Okay, so this property is used only in making the artificial magnets. Okay, if you remember, then class 11 there were two types of magnets: natural magnets, and one was artificial magnets. So these artificial or man-made magnets are made by using these metals only. Okay, by using the cobalt or iron or nickel or chromium oxide or gadolinium. Sometime other than this, sometimes some other elements, alloys, not elements, alloys such as L-Nico. L-Nico named alloy is also used, where aluminium, nickel and cobalt, all these three are mixed together to form an alloy, and this alloy is used to form these artificial magnets. Okay, let's move further and talk about this ferromagnetic materials or substances. Okay, so here in solid state their metal ions come together to form a small region termed domain. Okay, strong small region termed domain, and each domain behaves like a tiny magnet here. Okay, what they are saying, that all the metal ions coming together here. Okay, so if I am taking here like this is an example of your ferromagnetic material. So here small orbitals will be present, as you know that Orbitals are present there. Okay, so in orbitals, what will be happening there? Their metal ions come together to form small regions, okay, which are called as domain. So metal ions, in the metal ions, what will happen? Domains will be produced. Okay, domains will be denoted by this arrow like sign. Okay, like this, we are donating the domains here, and they gets arranged. Okay, they gets arranged in a proper orderly manner. They gets arranged in a proper orderly manner like this, and this arrangement, due to this arrangement only, they will start to behave like a tiny magnet. Each of the domain means each of this single part will behave like a tiny magnet. Okay, now in a magnetized piece of a ferromagnetic substance, these domains are randomly arranged. Okay, in before taking it to a magnetic field, na, its arrangement was something like this. The domains arrangement will be something like this. They were randomly arranged like this. No proper arrangement was there. Which was this was condition without magnetic field. This is condition in without magnetic field. Okay, but this is the condition when they are kept in magnetic field. Magnetic field. They are kept in a magnetic field. Okay, so this arrangement, you can see here, they were randomly arranged, their domains were randomly arranged, but when they are kept in magnetic field, this arrangement has been came to a orderly manner, means all the domains are arranged in same direction here. Due to this reason only, they attain the magnetic property. They attain the magnetic property. Okay. However, their net magnetic moment becomes zero. Here you can see that here in this condition, you can see that as all the domains are arranged in a random manner, so therefore they were having no magnetic moment in that condition, because all the magnetic moment was become zero in that case. Okay, all the magnetic moment has become zero in the case when they were randomly arranged. However, when it is kept in a magnetic field, the domains align themselves in the direction of the field, and this arrangement of domain does not changes even after the field is removed. Okay, if I am removing this magnetic field, okay, if I am removing this magnetic field from here, if I am removing this magnetic field also, then also we will see that no change in the magnetism will be seen here. It means that this particular material has become a magnet. Okay, it has become a permanent magnet. So you can see that due to this property of getting magnetized when kept in a magnetic field, and after removing also the magnetic field, they does not get demagnetized. This property helps in the formation of permanent magnet by using the ferromagnetic materials. Okay, so these were about the ferromagnetic materials. Next is the paramagnetic materials. Okay, let's talk about next is the paramagnetic material. So in paramagnetic material, what are the paramagnetic material? So first thing, paramagnetic materials are also nothing other than they are also the substances which can get attracted towards a magnetic field. Okay, they are also the substance which can get attracted towards a magnetic field, and after the removal, but here the thing changes. After the removal of the field, they lose their magnetism here. Okay, while the ferromagnetic materials, they were not losing their magnetic effect or magnetic property after removing the magnetic field, but here after removing the magnetic field from the paramagnetic materials, their magnetism is lost. Okay, so some of the example for this type of materials are chromium, okay, oxygen, Cu2 plus copper ion, okay, ferric ion. All these are some of the examples for your paramagnetic materials. To undergo paramagnetism, a substance must possess one or more unpaired electrons. Okay, first thing is that to have paramagnetic property, the substance must have unpaired electrons. Okay, unpaired electrons. It is necessary to have unpaired electrons there. Without unpaired electrons, it is not possible for a material, for a substance to possess paramagnetic property. Okay, these unpaired electrons are pulled by the magnetic field, thus causing the paramagnetism. Okay, thus causing the paramagnetism. These unpaired electrons only are pulled by the magnetic field and thus causing the paramagnetism. Okay, next is the antiferromagnetism. Antiferromagnetism. So an antiferromagnetic substance has domain structure similar to that of the ferromagnetic substance, but in the opposite orientation. Okay, their orientation will be opposite. These oppositely oriented domains nullifies out each other's magnetic movement there. Okay, so the domain arrangement can be seen here. Okay, so for ferromagnetic material, you can see the domain arrangement here like this. Okay, this is the domain arrangement for a ferromagnetic materials. This is the domain arrangement for a anti-ferromagnetic material. You can see that anti-ferromagnetic material here, one is upside arranged, then other is downside, upside downside like this. So they are nullifying each other's property. Okay, then comes out the paramagnetic. So paramagnetic is that they are also attracted towards each other, but the property is that they must have at least one single unpaired electron there. Okay, and due to this reason only they are attracted. Here you can see that they are having some random upside and some random downside, but this random two upside are producing the paramagnetic or magnetic property here. While in case of antiferromagnetic, here you can see that one up, one down, one up, one down. This type of direction arrangement of the domains helps them to nullify each other's magnetic property. While in case of paramagnetism, some of them, as you can see here, these two are arranged in such a way that you can see that here these two, okay, these two are arranged in such a way that they are having the magnetic property. Okay, but other are nullifying each other's magnetic property. Due to this reason, when we are removing the magnetic field here, they does not get magnetized, while in case of ferromagnetic they get magnetized. Okay, next is the ferrimagnetism. In these substances, the magnetic moment of the domain are oriented in parallel and anti-parallel direction and in equal number. Okay, they are parallelly or anti-parallelly arranged, but they are unequal in number. A few examples of such ferrimagnetic substances are ferrites. Okay, they are ferrites such as MgFe2O4, magnesium ferrite, zinc ferrite, okay, magnetite, Fe3O4. They all are the magnetic materials which are considered as ferrimagnetic. As compared to ferromagnetic materials, these substances are weakly attracted towards the magnetic field. They are weakly attracted towards the magnetic field, but on heating they gets converted to paramagnetic. Okay, but on heating they get converted to the paramagnetic materials. Okay, so here you can see the arrangement in the ferrimagnetic material. Here one up one down is there. Okay, one up one down is there, but on heating this they will totally convert back to paramagnetic. Okay, and due to this reason only, they possess some of the magnetic moment. Okay, some magnetic property. Next is the elements or compounds formed by 12th and 16th group elements and compounds formed by 13th and 15th group elements. Okay, so the group 12 and 16 compound are obtained by combining together 16th group and 12th group element. Okay, when we combine a 12th group element and a 16th group element, then 12-16 compounds are being formed out here. Similarly, combining group 13 element with the group 15 element, then we found out a group 13-15 compound. These compounds are prepared to stimulate average valence of 4 valency, okay, such as in silicon or germanium elements. Okay, as you know that silicon, okay, as you know that about silicon is having the valency plus 4, means it is a tetravalent. Similarly, germanium, it is also a tetravalent element. Okay, so due to this tetravalency, silicons plus 4 and germanium plus 4 tetravalency here, you will see that when they are combined with elements, when they are combined with other elements, then they are forming, then their this stimulation takes place, then their stimulation of the 4 electrons take place, and due to this reason elements such as we form generally indium 3 antimonide, okay, gallium arsenide, okay, and aluminium phosphide. These are some of the examples for your 13 15 compounds. Okay, similarly, gallium arsenide, which is a semiconductor, provides a very minute response time, and they have totally changed the design of semiconductor devices. Nowadays we are using gallium arsenides, which are used as semiconductors, and they are used for making semiconductor devices, and they are having very minute response time, means they can respond in very less amount of time. A few examples of group 12-16 elements are zinc sulfide, mercury telluride, okay, mercury telluride HGTE, cadmium sulfide CDS, cadmium selenide CDSE. The bonds of these compounds have are not perfect covalent. They are not perfectly covalent. They are bonds having some of the ionic character, which depends on their electronegativity of the two species of the elements. Okay, and due to this electronegativity and due to this possessing of the electronegativity here, they can conduct conduct electricity. Okay, as also they are forming a covalent bond only here, but due to possession of some of the electronegativity here, they can conduct electric current, and due to this reason we use them as semiconductors. Okay, so the group 13-16 and 13-50 elements, all these will be used as semiconductors, and they are and the proper and the process for mixing a 12th group element with a 16th group element and a 13th group element with a 15th group element, this process is known as doping. Okay, to add small amount of impurity in the crystal of an element is called doping. Okay, this is known as doping. Okay, so here you can see in the 12th group element we are adding 16th group element as impurities, and in 13th group element we are adding 15th group element as impurities. Okay, so this type of process is known as doping. Now let's move further. Next is the next question is a type of numerical which has been asked in your solid state chapter. Okay, and these are very important questions which I am discussing here. they are some of the questions which are been asked in the paper also. Okay, so we are discussing them, and on the basis of this we are getting knowledge of the questions also which can be asked in our paper, and which different types of questions are coming in our board examination from the chapter solid state. Other than this also, some of the important questions I will be giving you in the notes. Okay, so you will get all that from your notes, which I will provide you. In that, MCQs and new pattern questions such as assertion reasoning questions. Okay, and the questions related to the case study, all this I will try to include them in your notes, which will help you to prepare for your board examination, new pattern board examination. Okay, next is the question in which I am going to explain you a type of numerical which has been asked, okay, in our paper. So here, what is question asking here? Analysis shows that nickel oxide has the formula Ni 0.98 O 1.00. What fraction of nickel exists as Ni2 plus and Ni3 plus ions are present? Okay, so as I have told you, in the defects, imperfection of solid, we have studied in these things, imperfection of solids, metal deficient defect. Okay, we have studied that na? So on the basis of that topic only, this question has been asked here, and we have to find out what is the percentage of the Ni2 plus ions and Ni3 plus ion will be present here in this compound. Okay, we have to find out this thing. So this is one of the important question which is asked in our paper. So let's start and try to solve this question. So here, first thing, the formula is given to us. Ni 0.98, O 1.00. Okay. So the ratio of the nickel atom to the oxygen atom here is 0.98 divided by 1.00. It means the ratio will become 98 divided by 100. Okay, 0.98 divided by 1.00. So here it will become 98 divided by 100. This is our ratio. Okay. Now, how much charge on 100 O2 minus will be there? How much charge it will be if one oxygen atom is 2 minus charge? So it means that 100 ions will be having 100 into minus 2, it will be minus 200 coulomb charge, 100 minus 200 charge. Okay, let the charges on Ni2 plus ions be X. It is X. Okay, let I am considering that Ni2 plus ions here are having the charges of X. X ions of Ni2 plus are having, and nickel atoms are having Ni2 plus charge. Okay, then the number of the Ni3 plus ions here, it will become 98 minus X. Okay, here this 98 upon 100, this ratio shows that for every for every 100 oxygen, 98 of nickel atoms are present. Okay, for every 100 oxygen atom, 98 nickel atoms are there. Okay, and out of that 98, they all are Ni2 plus only. How we are getting this? Because you know that oxygen's valency is 2 minus. So 2 minus valency will be naturally acting with Ni2 plus only. Na? Okay, it means that Ni, 2 electrons will be released out, which is gained by this oxygen to gain 2 minus state here. Okay, 2 minus oxidation state here. So here 100, for every 100 O2 minus ions, 98 nickel 2 plus ions are there. Okay, first thing is confirmed that. So left out the, if I am saying that Ni2 plus is X in number, the ions Ni2 plus is X in number, then how many Ni3 plus will be there? Then Ni3 will be 98 minus X only. Okay, so the left out elements will be, the left out electrons will be, the left out atoms will be of Ni3 plus only. Okay, let's move further. Then total charge on Ni2 plus will be X into plus 2. It becomes plus 2X. Okay, X into plus 2, it becomes X plus 2X. Now total charge on Ni3 plus, it will become 98 minus X into plus 3. So it is plus 3 into 98. It becomes 294 minus 3x. This is the charge on Ni3 plus, total charge on Ni3 plus, and for Ni2 plus the total charge is 2x. Okay, this is for Ni2 plus. Then as we know that a ionic compound is always neutral. Okay, an ionic compound is always neutral. So then 2x plus 294 minus 3x plus minus 200 charges of oxygen atom, oxygen ions here. These all will be summing up to 0 only. Okay, so from here we can calculate the value of x. 2x minus 3x, it will become x minus 3x plus 94 is equals to 0. Okay, plus 94 is equals to 0. Then minus x, sorry, not minus x, let 94 be here only and x go here. Then x is equals to 94. So the value of Ni2 plus ions in our formula Ni 0.98 is 94. Okay, the number of Ni2 plus atom here is 94, while Ni3 plus is 98 minus 94, which is 4 atoms. So what is the percentage here? Then what is the fraction or the percentage of nickel 2 plus ion? So we can calculate it by how many total nickel ions are there? 98. And what is the number of Ni2 plus ion? It is 94. So it becomes 0.095. Okay. Similarly, Ni3 plus, for Ni3 plus it will become 4 divided by 98, which is 0.04. Okay, so hence this is the fraction of the number of Ni2 plus and Ni3 plus ions present in our compound Ni 0.98 1.00. Let's move to the next question. In the next question, it is a type of question in which we are going to use the formula of density, which we have studied there in our last lecture, the densities formula. According to that only, we are going to get some type of questions there. Okay, let's see. Okay, what the question is asking here, let's see. Question is asking here, silver crystallizes in FCC lattice. Okay, silver is having FCC lattice, phase cubic center lattice. Okay, if the edge length of the cell is 4.07 into 10 to the power minus 8 centimeter. Okay, so here A is given 4.07 into 10 to the power minus 8 centimeter. First it is given, and density of the silver here is given 10.5 into 10.5 grams per centimeter cube. Density is denoted by rho, so it is given here 10.5 grams per centimeter cube. It is given here like this. Okay, now as it is a FCC lattice, so the number of atoms per unit cell will be 8 into 1 by 8 plus 6 into 1 by 2. So it will be 3 plus 1 is equals to 4 atoms per unit cell. 4 atoms per unit cell. Okay, this thing is confirmed first thing. Also we know that Avogadro's number is 6.022 into 10 to the power 23, which is the number of particles which are present in per mole of the substance. Okay, now let's first we have to find out the atomic mass of the silver here. Okay, we have to find out the atomic mass of silver here. So as you remember the formula there, the formula was rho is equals to Zn upon A cube into Avogadro's number. So here if I am calculating only for m here, then the formula becomes rho aq na upon z. Okay, so putting all the values here, on putting the values, the value of rho is given 10.5, aq means 4.077 into 10 to the power minus 8 cube will be here. Okay, its cube will be here, and 6.022 into 10 to the power 23, this is the Avogadro's number, and z here is number of atoms here is 4. Okay, so on calculating all this thing, we will get the answer here 1.107.13 grams per mole. Okay, so here we have used this formula, which is the formula for density. Okay, so I have told you that before also that this formula is going to be used in the next question. Okay, next question is also related to this formula only. Okay, next question is also related to this formula only. We are going to use this formula only for that solving that question. Okay. So the next question is, okay, so next question. Here in this question, what is asked here? Find the number of voids in 0.2 moles of a compound forming hexagonal closed packed structure. What number of these are tetrahedral voids? Okay, here is given that 0.2 moles of a compound is forming HCCP. Okay, hexagonal closed packing structure, and we have to find out here how many number of tetrahedral voids will be present out here. Okay, first, number of particles present in 0.2 moles of substance, it will be is equals to 0.2 into Avogadro's number, so it will become 1.2044 into 10 to the power 23. Okay, as Avogadro's number is 6.022 into 10 to the power 23, so we are multiplying 6.022 into 0.2, so we will get 1.2044 into 10 to the power 23 particles. Now for octahedral voids in HCCP, the number will be same as the number of the particles are there. As much the number of particles are there, so that much number of the octahedral voids will be present there in HCCP. Okay, so as we know that for octahedral voids, the number is equals to number of particles. But for tetrahedral, this becomes twice the number of particles. Tetrahedral voids becomes twice the number of particles. So hence 2 into 1.2044 into 10 to the power 23, it means that 2.4088 into 10 to the power 23 tetrahedral voids will be present out here. So hence the total number of voids will become here 1.2044 into 10 to the power 23 plus 2.4088 into 10 to the power 23, and hence the total value becomes here 3.6132 into 10 to the power 23. This is the total number of voids present here. Okay, now next question. In the next question, we are going to discuss a question which is asking, a compound is made up of two elements A and B. The atoms of element B forms cubic close packing, and element A atoms take up 1/3 of the tetrahedral voids here. So find the formula of this compound. Okay, here we have to find out the formula for this compound, and the following conditions are given. First, atom of element B forms a cubic close packing here. So the total number of atoms, let the total number of atoms here be n. So the number of octahedral voids, it will become n here only, and the number of tetrahedral voids becomes 2 into n. So here we know that each tetra means 1/3 of tetrahedral voids are occupied by a element. Okay, they are occupied by a element. So the number of element a will become 2n into 1 by 3. 2n into 1 by 3. Okay, so hence it becomes 2n by 3. Now the formula here becomes a is to b. So it will become 2n by 3 is to number of b particle is n. So hence n and n will get cancelled out here. So the ratio becomes 2 is to 3. So hence our formula becomes a to b, a to b. This is the formula for our given compound. Next, the question is asking here, an element with a density of 2.7 into 10 to the power 3 kilogram per meter cube has a molar mass of 2.7 into 10 to the power minus 2 kilogram per mole, and it makes a cubic unit cell. Okay, it is making a cubic unit cell with an edge length of 405 picometers. So what kind of cubic unit cell does it have? We have to find out here which kind of cubic unit cell it is. It is closed packing, it is hexagonal packing, or it is a BCC or FCC. All this we have to calculate here. Okay. So first, rho is given out here. We are getting rho. Okay, first thing. The formula here was rho is equals to Zm upon a cube into n a. This was the formula here. Okay. So here, if we know the number of the atoms, we presently do not know the number of atoms here. And if we calculate this number of atoms here, then we can easily find out which type of unit cell, cubic unit cell is present. Okay, which type of cubic unit cell is present here, we can easily find out. So here we have got with in the question we have got the following terms. Rho's value we have got, capital M molar mass value we have got, and also A edge length value we also know here. So the left is Z only, and Avogadro number, we know that Avogadro number is 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 per mole. Okay, so putting all these values and leaving Z out here, we can easily calculate Z. So Z finds out to be 3.99 here. Okay, 3.99. If I am taking the Z here, then it will become rho is 2.7 into 10 to the power 3 into 4.05 into 10 to the power minus 10 to the power minus 10 cube into 6.022 into 10 to the power 23 whole divided by molar mass. So molar mass here is 2.7 into 10 to the power minus 2. So Z becomes here, Z's value, this 2.7 gets cancelled out here, and 4.5 cube and 6.022. On multiplying it, we will get all the values as 3.99. Okay, and this 10 all will be get cancelled out here. Only 3.99 will be left out here. So we can say that 3.99 is very much equal to 4. So hence 4 atoms or 4 particles are present in which type of cubic cell? Okay, this atoms, this number of atoms are present in 3 plus 1 4 FCC only. So hence the given or the asked cubic cell, unit cubic cell here is face centered cubic unit cell. Okay, face centered cubic unit cell. So these were the important types of questions which are being asked in your paper. Okay, so I am ending this lecture here only, and we will continue with the new chapter in the next lecture. Oh, sorry. Firstly, I will provide you the notes of this chapter, and after that, we will continue with the next chapter. So, thank you for watching this video, and be safe and be at home.